The Zen Teachings of Master Duy Luc. Translated into English by Nguyen Giọc. California, 2010. Preface. His way of teaching was unique, his words shook the bones of the Dharma listeners, and his questions given to the students shut down all thinking. Thus he was, the late Zen Master Duy Luc. Since he started teaching in 1977, the huatou practice has become popular again in many parts of Vietnam, and helped shape the landscape of Buddhism in Vietnam these days. In order to make his teachings available in English, this book comprises of some translations, his biography, his two short books, Introduction to the Patriarch Zen and How to Practice Patriarch Zen, and a short collection of question and answer conversations. This is a hard book for beginners. This method of meditation is very practical, but its explanation is not simple. In case readers find something hard to understand, just read very slowly, or just skip to the next sentence, or to the next paragraph, or to the next page, and so on. Just don't reason, don't try to explain the Patriarch Zen. Just keep the mind of the unknowing. Just be mindful and feel the unknown mind by your whole body. Calmly and mindfully, watch the doubtful state of mind. That is a part of the practice. Meditation takes time and patience, but has its rewards right at the first day you practice. Actually, meditation makes a difference right at the first minutes when you feel the breaths flowing in and out of your body gently. And actually, the Patriarch Zen is very, very, very different. It takes you to the land of the unknown mind. It shuts down all the ways of thinking you might have. It urges you to use the unknowing mind, or the don't know mind, to think of the unthinkable, and it leads you to realize that all things are created by the mind, which in turn realizes itself as emptiness in nature. Because it is emptiness, there is not a path to walk in, or, in other words, it is the path of mindfulness on the emptiness of the mind. It is the gateless gate, because nothing is outside the mind. And Zen Master Duy Luc accomplished a wonderful task, helping several practitioners to get that realization. The translator tries his best, but still thinks that he cannot transfer well into English all the profound words from Zen Master Duy Luc. And thus, any mistake found in this book is the translator's solely responsibility. Nguyen Giọc, the translator. Biography. Zen Master Thich Duy Luc. Born in May 5, 1923 in China, and passed away in January 7, 2000 in the United States, he left a Dharma heritage that has influenced and thrived in Vietnam and in many other countries. He had the birth name Lar Zu, Ladu, and another Dharma name Giọc Khai. When he finished elementary school at 16, his father took him to emigrate to Quang Thor, Cantho, Vietnam, where he studied by himself and 10 years later obtained a teacher degree in teaching Chinese. From 1948, he was invited to teach for 10 years at several elementary schools, first at a school in Ta Keo, Takeo, Province, Cambodia, then at Kai Tri, Khaitri, Elementary School in Quang Thor, Cantho, and at Kai Von, Caivon, Elementary School in Vinh Long, Vinhlong, Vietnam. In 1958, after obtaining an Oriental medicine degree, he was invited to work as a doctor of traditional medicine and provide free medical services to poor patients at the Te Nguyen Duong Ca Mau, Te, Nguon, Duong, Camau, Clinic and the Min Wei Ku Si Lam, Minh, Nguyet, Cu, Si, Lam, a Buddhist association in Can Tho, Tho, for 8 years. When he found in the library of Ku Si Lam the Kin Tuk Tang, Kinh, Tuc, Tang, a set of 150 books on Buddhism, he tried to read all them. 1 year later, he finished reading just 7 books, hence he decided that would read only the Zen books. At the time, he was also learning the Patriarch Zen from Dharma Master Thich Duy Luc, who had many years of following closely Zen Masters Hu Van, Van, and Lai Kwa, Lai Qa. Thich Duy Luc later died in 1976 at the Thao Duong Temple, Thao, Duong, Vietnam. In February 8, 1973, he was received by Venerable Hoang Tu, Hoang, Tu, into the Tuan Temple, Tuan, Cho Lon, Cholon, to live as a novice monk. In May 1974, he received the full monastic codes of a bhiksu in an ordination ceremony at the Kuk Lak, Lac Temple, Malaysia. Since then, he meditated tirelessly on the huatou, who I was before the existence of heaven and earth, for many years. One day, while reading the book Discourse on Madhyamika, he saw the sentence, "Because of emptiness, all things are done," and suddenly understood the meaning of "from emptiness, the activity appears." He then understood that the emptiness was born from the great wisdom, that, according to the Shurangama Sutra, Sholingan Jing, countless worldly countries were born from the emptiness just like a mountain of bubbles arised from the ocean. That the sixth patriarch's saying, "Clinging to nothing must be the core of your thinking," had the same direction as Vimalakirti's saying, "From the non-abiding base, establish all things," that the non-abiding meant the nature of emptiness, that the true suchness was originally emptiness, but it flowed out all activity, that the nature and activity of all Buddhas were the same as those of sentient beings, spreading all over time and space, and that every sentient being, unknowingly, was using the activity of their Buddha nature. In April 2, 1977, obeying the order of his patron master, Venerable Hoang Tu, Zen Master Duy Luc started teaching the Patriarch Zen at Tuan Temple, Ho Chi Minh City. Within 2 years, thousands from the 4 groups of Buddhists came to him to learn. It was estimated that over 4,000 Buddhists practiced Zen under his guidance, and every Zen retreat had average over 300 participants. In February 1989, he emigrated to the U.S. and founded Tuan Zen Temple in Orange County, California. Practitioners coming to study Zen under his guidance were Westerners and Asians, in which mostly were Vietnamese and Chinese. He was also invited to teach the Patriarch Zen in other Zen centers in America, and in many other countries, frequently at Chan Giak, GIAC Temple in Toronto, Canada, Dai Bai, Bi Temple in Taiwan, Quan Am, Quan Temple in Brisbane, Australia, and in Hong Kong. Especially, Zen Master Duy Luc responded warmly to any invitation from the temples in Vietnam when possible. He conducted many Zen retreats in Ho Chi Minh City, mostly at Tuan Temple in District 5, Hung Phuoc, Phuoc Temple in District 3, Phap Ton, Thanh Temple and Sung Duc, Duc Temple in District 6, and Hu Quang, Quang Temple in Tan Binh, Bin District, in the Ba Ria Vung Tau, Ba, Ria, Vung, Tau Province, mostly at Dai Tong Lam, Dai, Tong, Lam. Temple and Thien Hoa, Thien, Hoa. Nunnery, and in many temples in the provinces of Long An, Long, An, Soc Trang, Soc, Trang, Tay Ninh, Tay, Ning, Con Hoa and Bin Din. In 1996, Zen Master Duy Luc founded a Zen farm in Cu Chi, Saigon, where he and his students grew organic vegetables, i.e., without fertilizer and pesticide. In 1998, he was invited by the Vietnam Buddhist Church, VBC, to be a member of the Central Buddhist Education Committee. He accepted the VBC's request, and taught at the short-term expanded education courses in Bin Din, where learners came from the central provinces, and at the second central office of the VBC, where learners came from Saigon and from the southern and eastern provinces. In 1999, he founded a medical clinic in Long Tan District, Dong Nai Province, gave free treatment and medicine to patients, and circumstantially expounded the Zen teachings. He wrote, translated from Chinese into Vietnamese, and penned his own commentaries on dozens of Buddhist scriptures and Zen classics. The circulation of his books, mostly in Vietnamese and some in Chinese, was estimated at about tens of thousand copies in print in Vietnam. The books authored by Zen Master Duy Luc included a collection of the words of Buddha and patriarchs, koans from Buddha and Bodhidharma, Buddhist teachings and Zen, an approach to Patriarch Zen, a dictionary of Zen, a worldview for the 21th century, the core of Madhyamaka, the core of Buddhist teachings. The books translated and commented by Zen Master Duy Luc included Shurangama Sutra, Lankavatara Sutra, the Platform Sutra, Perfect Enlightenment Sutra, Vimalakirti Sutra, the Record of Dai Hu, Dai, Hui, Warning Words on Practicing Zen, authored by Venerable Bac Sun, Son, the Record of Guiding Words in Zen Retreats, authored by Zen Master Lai Kwa, Lai, Hua. The Expanded Record and Words of Ba Trong, Truong, The Essential Teachings of Transmitting the Mind, the Record of Trung Phong, Trung, Phong, The Line of Dharma Transmission, The Essential Teachings from a Collection of Sutras, expounding the quiet meanings of verses on the faith in mind. Introduction to the Patriarch Zen by Thich Duy Luc. Tuan Zen Temple is devoted to the Patriarch Zen, an approach of meditation that Gautama Buddha taught directly to Mahakasyapa, who later passed on to Ananda, who passed on to the next, and so on. Subsequently, the 28th Patriarch was Bodhidharma, who went east, became the first Patriarch in China, and taught Zen to the Chinese. Then in China, the second Patriarch was Wei Ka, the third, Tang San, the fourth, Dao Tin, the fifth, Hoang Yan, the sixth, Wei Neng, and so on. Thus, Venerable Thich Duy Luc is the 89th generation, counting from Mahakasyapa. Practically, Buddhism is an education to help people enter the way of mind and attain the complete enlightenment. However, some people misunderstand that this is a superstitious religion. It is called an education because it helps people to understand and realize that the universe and all other things emerge from the mind. Thus, Gautama Buddha said that all things are created by the mind. So, what is the mind? The mind is a noun that everybody easily says about it, but hardly knows what it is. Longthor, Nagarjuna, the 14th Zen Patriarch in India, used the words, the empty space that has nowhere for the existence to cling to, as an example for the mind. The mind has no form, and cannot be quantified. Thus the brain of thinking cannot touch the mind, and we cannot use words and texts to portray the mind. Thus Buddhism reluctantly says that the mind is the nature of emptiness. To say it as emptiness is to show the activity of the mind. Similarly, the empty space, that has nowhere for the existence to cling to, is containing all things, the universe with all the moons, suns, mountains, rivers, houses, the trees and all other things. Everything must rely on the nowhere for the existence to cling to be contained and manifested. The everyday life with its activities such as eating rice, putting clothes on, talking, receiving guests, and working must rely on the nowhere for the existence to cling to be manifested. However, we are using its activities and we don't know that. Hence Gautama Buddha taught this direct meditation to let everybody manifest fully their mind. At the moment you realize the mind, we say that you see the nature of mind, and become a Buddha. We say, becoming a Buddha, but the truth is that there exists not a Buddha to be become. It is just that you wake up from an open-eyes dream. Ditto to when you wake up from a closed-eyes dream, and then you realize that all things in the dream, including you and the universe, are not real, we say that you just realize enlightenment. Now we say about an approach to practice the Patriarch Zen, investigating and watching a huatou. The word huatou means the head of the spoken words, or something before the spoken words, meaning that what is in your mind before you have a thought of wanting to speak. When a thought of wanting to speak arises in your mind, that is already the tail of the spoken words. To investigate a huatou is to raise the question from the huatou, and then you see that you don't understand and don't know about the answer. To watch a huatou is to look at your mind to see what is the don't know mind. The realm of the don't know mind has no place, thus it has no target to be watched. Despite watching continuously, you still see nothing and know nothing. That don't know mind is called by Zen as the feeling of doubt. You, the meditator, should raise the question and watch it in the same time to keep feeling the doubt. This feeling of doubt will take you to the huatou, which is the primal ignorance and also the source of consciousness, and will make you feel that you are going to step off the top of a 100-foot pole. When you walk one more step away from the top of a 100-foot pole, you then walk far away from the consciousness. The moment you step away from the consciousness is called as the moment you see the nature of mind and become a Buddha. Suddenly, you have no more doubt. That is when the prajna mind manifests its activities throughout space and time, and then you understand all things. That is called by Buddhism as Samyaksambhuddha in Sanskrit, or the universal knowledge of a Buddha. Westminster, California, December 21, 1996. Thich Duy Luc. How to Practice Patriarch Zen by Thich Duy Luc. There is a way to practice Patriarch Zen, the meditation that has been passed along by generations of patriarchs, the investigating meditation. The investigating meditation is different from the sitting meditation, and the sitting meditation is also different from the investigating meditation. Many people mistake that the sitting meditation means the investigating meditation, but those who practice the investigating meditation actually don't need to sit. It is said by the patriarchs that doing the investigating meditation while doing all other activities is better than sitting in a quiet place to do the investigating meditation, as the ones who do the latter hardly have any hope to see the nature of the mind. The sixth patriarch said, "You mind, not the sitting, understands the way." The chapter Sitting Meditation in the Platform Sutra says that sitting meditation means that the mind sits, not the body sits, and that sitting means that while you face all the good and evil outwardly, the thought has no place in your mind, and meditation means that inwardly you see the unmoving self-nature. So, what is the investigating meditation? The word investigating means doubting or working on something you don't understand yet. When you understand the problem, the doubt disappears and there exists no more the investigating. Hence, the investigating meditation focuses on the doubt, or in other words, the feeling of doubt. To raise the feeling of doubt, you should rely on the huatou, thus that is the investigating meditation. What is a huatou? Zen Master Huvan, Huvan, explains that when you want to say a sentence, you have to stir up a thought before speaking, and a huatou is the state of mind before a thought arises. When a thought arises, even when before you speak, that is already the tail of a sentence. Now you start to do the investigating meditation. Even when you don't reach a huatou yet, you don't stay still at the tail of the sentence. You are leaving the tail of a sentence and coming toward a huatou, and one day you will arrive at a huatou. That is when the huatou will vanish itself. If the huatou still lingers in your mind, you don't arrive at the huatou yet. Zen Master Huvan says, the huatou is a walking stick, and the feeling of doubt is the walking. Just like someone with a hurt leg must rely on a walking stick to move forward, raising the feeling of doubt must rely on a huatou. There are so many huatus, and I cannot count all them. I now only show 5 huatus. Each of you, the practitioners, should select the one you feel that would be the most difficult. The fittest huatou for you is the one you have no clue whatsoever, and the one you think you would never understand. Just select only one, not 2. After you select a huatou, don't turn to another one. Just move forward with the investigating meditation until you realize the nature of the mind. The 5 huatus are as follows. Who I was before the existence of heaven and earth. All things return to the One. Where does the One return to? What did your face look like before your parents were born? Where were you before your birth, and where will you go after your death? Not mind, not Buddha, not things, what is that? Huatou is a question. When a question is raised, there must be an answer coming. For instance, the question, who I was before the existence of heaven and earth, is raised in your mind, and you feel you cannot give an answer. The more you get stuck in the question, the more you feel a doubt growing. That state of mind is what we call the feeling of doubt, or the sensation of doubt. Firstly, you raise the question, and you cannot find an answer. Then you do that again, the second time, and then again, the third time. Just raise the question endlessly, day and night. Raise the question constantly, even when you are walking, standing, lying, sitting, driving, eating, working physically or mentally, using the toilet, or sleeping. Just raise the question constantly, ceaselessly. The beginners often forget to raise the question, and feel it's hard to be mindful constantly. In 24 hours of a day, their practice may get interrupted 23 hours for several first days. Later, the interruption time combined will be shorter, to 22 hours, then 21 hours, then 20 hours, and so on. Gradually, their practice flows continuously and smoothly in 24 hours a day. When the practice, as a stream of mind flowing, becomes a solid slab, it is called as arriving at huatou, also as arriving at the top of a 100-foot pole. From the top of a 100-foot pole, you go forward one more step and will see the self-nature. Hence, you attain liberation and live far away from all suffering forever. The Patriarch Zen practitioners should pay attention to the following advices. 1. Destroy the self-grasping. All Buddhist vehicles ask the practitioners to destroy the self-grasping mind. Those who don't destroy the self-grasping mind cannot get free from the suffering of birth and death, and will get stuck in that cycle. How would the investigating meditation help destroy the self-grasping mind? Here are the guiding words for practitioners: there is nothing obtainable, nothing desirable, and nothing to be afraid of. In case you see something obtainable, there is still the self-grasping mind. In case you see something desirable, there is still the self-grasping mind. In case you see something to be afraid of, there is still the self-grasping mind. 2. Distinguish the confused doubt and the proper doubt. The investigating meditation needs a proper doubt, which is a realm you step into when your mind is doubting, not wandering, not reasoning, and not comparing, and sees the doubt growing stronger and stronger. While the feeling of doubt grows strong intensively, you at some time will experience a sudden explosion. That is when you see the self-nature. When you see the self-nature, you will get enlightenment, will understand yourself, and will gain control over yourself. That is when you attain liberation, and stay away from the suffering forever. Thus it is called as seeing the self-nature and becoming a Buddha. A confused doubt is a realm you live in when your mind tries to understand or explain a huatou. That is not the investigating meditation. A confused doubt may lead you to understand via words, yet cannot lead you to experience the enlightenment. 3 centuries ago, Sir Isaac Newton watched an apple fall from a tree and had a doubt: why does the apple fall down, and not fly up? Hence he used his mind to try to develop a theory to explain that, and understood about the force of gravity. That is a confused doubt. A confused doubt can only deals with worldly things and had value with worldly life, but cannot understand the mind nature itself and thus cannot gain control over itself for liberation. 3. Don't arouse any different thought. Aside from the feeling of doubt, don't raise any different thought. Thus don't depress any false thought, don't drop any false thought, don't kill any false thought. Just let the false thoughts, despite their volume, arise. And don't care about whether you have any false thought or not, because the feeling of doubt will act as an automatic broom that sweeps all thoughts arising. It sweeps all, whether you have any false thought or not. If the feeling of doubt flows continuously and smoothly, there is not any gap for any false thought arising. In case any thought arises, there must be a gap in the practice. 4. Cause and effect, doubt and realization. You should know that a doubt is the cause, and the realization is its effect. If there is not a cause, there exists not any effect. Thus, if you don't have a doubt, you cannot experience any realization. The lesser cause, the lesser effect; the lesser doubt, the lesser realization. The greater cause, the greater effect; the greater doubt, the greater realization. When you do the investigating meditation and see the feeling of doubt growing heavy, you may have some hard time breathing or feel some pain in head or in chest. That is the existence of a great doubt. Don't be afraid of that, because a great doubt will pave the way for a great realization. Words of caution: if you feel such pain while sitting, there must be something wrong. Then, what should you do? Just stand up right away, find some work to do, and keep doing the investigating meditation. In case you feel so much stress and cannot stand it, just raise the huatou very slowly, raise each word from the huatou very slowly, thus the stress will be eased away soon. 5. Anyone can do the investigating meditation. Anyone can practice the Patriarch Zen, despite being young or old, smart or stupid, a beginner or an old-timer. The Lotus Sutra also tells a story of an 8-year-old dragon girl who became a Buddha. Writing about hundreds of practitioners who got enlightenment, the Record of Transmission of the Lamp, a history book on Chinese Zen, notes that 2 young ladies, a 13-year-old Trin, Trinh, and a 15-year-old To, and several unintelligent patriarchs successfully saw the nature of the mind. If you have a firm determination to break the cycle of birth and death, and practice hard, you will see the nature of mind and will become a Buddha. Don't underestimate your ability to become a Buddha. 6. Believe deeply in the self-mind. Practitioners of the investigating meditation must believe in the self-mind. Those who believe in the investigating meditation and don't believe in the self-mind cannot see the self-nature despite how intensely they practice. Thus Zen Master Duy Luc said, there are 2 kinds of beliefs, correct and incorrect. When you believe that the self-mind is Buddha, you have a correct belief. When you believe that there is something outside the mind, you have an incorrect belief. A correct belief urges you to meditate and investigate the being Buddha, to see clearly the self-mind and to step yourself into the doubtless land. In case you get confused, make a guess that the self-mind is Buddha, and don't want to investigate to see clearly the self-mind, you already have an incorrect belief. 7. You have to realize the self-nature. The dog from the nation of Han runs after the bone, and the lion attacks the man. Those are words from patriarchs to show the scene. A man throws a bone, then the dog runs after the bone while the lion attacks the man and don't mind about the bone. The man symbolizes for the self-nature, the bone for words from Buddha and patriarchs. While the ignorant people chase words from Buddha and patriarchs for their knowledge, only the lions aim at the self-nature for the enlightenment. The old sages said, grasping words, you will die in words. Just look at where the words started aiming at and receive their meanings. In case you hear some words from patriarchs and you think you understand, that must be some knowledge in the realm of differentiating consciousness. Despite the knowledge sounds logical to worldly principles, the realization of the truth cannot come within the consciousness. Thus patriarchs said the ignorant people acted like the dogs from the nation of Han. 8. Don't fall into unresponsive emptiness. While doing the investigating meditation, don't fall into the unresponsive emptiness. Some practitioners from other schools might want to stop the streaming thoughts. However, the investigating meditation warns against stopping the streaming thoughts, and requires that the feeling of doubt must be present continuously, uninterruptedly. If you have neither the feeling of doubt nor any false thought, then you fall into the unresponsive emptiness, a kind of meditation sickness which was called by patriarchs as submerging in the dead water, where you feel afloat and purified. If you grasp the unresponsive emptiness, you cannot see the self-nature forever. Thus you better have false thoughts alongside the feeling of doubt. When you don't arrive at the huatou yet, don't throw away the question being investigated. Some practitioners keep only the feeling of doubt and stop questioning. They think that doing like that should be good. Actually, that is not correct, because their practice might be interrupted sometime and they don't know that. Also, it's easy for them to fall into the unresponsive emptiness. 8. While practicing, quit reasoning. According to the doctrine school, the practice has to undergo via 4 stages: believing, understanding, practicing, and realizing. The practitioners believe first, then try to understand, then practice in accord with their understanding, then understand deeper and practice higher in the same time, going up the 10 stages until realizing the complete enlightenment. That is the regular practice. The Patriarch Zen is different. You have to believe and understand first, then quit reasoning when you start practicing. The Zen school says, while practicing, quit reasoning. That means that when you start doing the investigating meditation, you have to stop all the production of knowledge. Thus, practitioners of the investigating meditation should not try to understand Zen or the way. Why? Because the investigating meditation already carries Zen and the way. In trying to understand Zen and the way while practicing, you are putting a second head onto your original head now. Patriarch said, "Don't put another head onto your head. The second head is not useful to the original head. Actually, it carries more heavy suffering onto the original head, and should be cut off by a medicine doctor to help the patient recover." When you are advised not to try to understand Zen or the way, how could you want to understand anything else? Just know that clinging to knowledge will obstruct the path to enlightenment. Thus, while practicing, quit reasoning. 10. Focus on practice. The Patriarch Zen focuses on practicing, not on reasoning. However, while practicing, practitioners will see thousands of different roads branching off according to their capacity level, their sensuous clinging, their understanding, and their fondness. This book shows only some general practical advices. There are so many details left out from this book, because a medicine doctor has to prescribe a specific medication to cure a specific illness, and because practitioners need to be advised by the more senior practitioners despite that the investigating meditation is somehow easy. In case somebody goes astray from the Patriarch Zen, feels dissatisfied, and says bad about Buddhist teachings, that practitioner is going to hell unknowingly. So, be careful. The basic practice of Patriarch Zen. For the purpose of seeing the self-nature and attaining liberation, the practitioners of Patriarch Zen have to do the basic practice as follows. 1. Believing in the self-mind. What is the meaning of believing in the self-mind? You have to believe that your self-mind is equal to all the Buddha's mind, and they actually are not two things apart. That means that the power and wisdom within your self-mind are equal to those of Buddha's. The self-nature is equally non-dual, because the original nature and profound activity within your self-mind and those of Buddha's exist throughout space and time. If your self-mind is something less than Buddha's mind, then there is duality and inequality, something higher and something lower within the self-nature. If you believe that the self-mind has within all the power and wisdom, and believe that its nature and activity exist throughout space and time just like Buddha said that there is nothing outside the mind, then you obviously can practice these guiding words: there is nothing obtainable, nothing desirable, and nothing to be afraid of. In case you see there is something obtainable and desirable, that must be something outside the mind. However, you know that the original mind exists throughout space and time, and that outside space and time there must be no other space and time respectively. How could you see something obtainable and desirable? When you see nothing obtainable and desirable, you have nothing to be afraid of. Thus you are destroying the self-grasping mind. The guiding words, there is nothing obtainable, nothing desirable, and nothing to be afraid of, is a tool to destroy the self-grasping mind. When you finish off the self-grasping mind, you get free from the suffering of birth and death. In case you believe not in the self-mind, but only in the Patriarch Zen, you cannot see the self-nature despite how hard you practice. Why? If you don't believe in the self-mind, how can you realize your original mind? To realize the original mind is to see the self-nature. Thus, believing in the self-mind is the basic of the authentic teachings. 2. The feeling of doubt. What is the feeling of doubt? When you raise a huatou to question in mind and feel that you don't know the answer, that is the presence of the feeling of doubt. You must have the feeling of doubt continuously, even when you are standing, walking, lying, sitting, working, eating, talking, sleeping, or doing anything else. To do the investigating meditation, you must have the feeling of doubt. In other words, you use the mind of the unknown, the feeling of doubt, to finish off all the known from the brain. It is said to finish off, but the practitioner has no intention to finish off anything. When the feeling of doubt arises, all the knowledge vanishes, because all the known from the brain is the appearance of sickness or the knowledge of a blind person. For instance, a blind person asks a sighted person about the sun, and is replied that the sun is round and hot. The sighted person describes the sun correctly. However, if the blind person grasps the idea of round and hot as the sun, it is so wrong. To keep the feeling of doubt, firstly, don't try to understand or memorize anything. Secondly, quit the conditional knowledge. We define the conditional knowledge here as the state of mind in which you know things around even you don't try to understand. Just like when you know you are standing, walking, lying, sitting, eating, putting clothes on, and so on. Thus, Zen Master Duy Luc said, when the practice leads you to the huatou, you walk and you don't know you are walking. Ditto, you sit and you don't know you are sitting. When the practice leads you to the huatou, the questioning disappears and all the knowledge from the brain is gone. At the time, you do the investigating meditation and you don't know that you are doing the investigating meditation. You eat rice and you don't know that you are eating rice, and also you don't know that you are stepping into the unknown of the mind. At the time, you are just a step away from the realization of the self-nature. You will be looked by some other people as a foolish person, but truly you are about to manifest the great wisdom when the feeling of doubt explodes and the don't know mind vanishes. Then the knowing and the not knowing from the brain will become clear, the sick appearance, from activity of the brain, will be gone, and the healthy appearance, from the knowing of Buddha nature, will appear. Thus, it is said as seeing the self-nature and becoming a Buddha. Patriarch said, there must not have been two knowers. There must not have been two dharmas. Is it true that there are not two persons who are knowing? The knowing from the original nature is the complete enlightenment, which exists throughout space and time and is the only one. If there is another knowledge from the brain, not the one through doubt, then we see two knowers existing. Why is it said that there are not two dharmas? Because all things are created by the mind. Because the original nature of the mind exists throughout space and time, so does the dharma realm, a thing which is created by the mind. Thus, it is said that there are not two dharmas. In case there is a dharma that is grasped by the brain as a real dharma, this second dharma is also the appearance of sickness. Notes. The unknown mind of the brain. When you raise the questioning from a huatou, and you feel you don't know the answer, your eager inquisitive mind from the ancient habit arises and becomes the feeling of doubt. This don't know mind, or the mind of the unknown, is different from the ignorance of foolish people, of mental patients, or of those who fall asleep or unconscious. Thus it is said that the unknown mind of the brain is the base of the feeling of doubt. To keep the feeling of doubt, you have to use the don't know mind. In case the mind knows something, that is not the feeling of doubt, thus that is not the investigating meditation. Is the only one. The non-dual self-nature is not one. Saying one is just to have a means for description. If there is truly one, then there must be two, then three, and then thousands.